Hello everyone, this is the Chinese Mitten Crabs Aquaponics project, and today we're going to talk about ecosystems. First, let's talk about the basic concepts of ecology. So what is ecology? Previously, we learned that each habitat has its own specific set of environmental conditions. In a habitat, organisms do not live independently, but interact with one another with their physical environment, for example, air and water. Ecology is the study of these interactions, meaning the interrelationships between organisms, and those between organisms and the physical environment. Therefore, let's look at the levels of organization in ecological studies. Ecological studies can be carried out at different levels. First, at the species level. At the species level, we can study how individuals of a species adapt to the environment. Secondly, population. Population refers to a group of organisms of the same species living in the same habitat. At the population level, we can study how environmental factors affect the size of a population. Third, community. Community refers to all the populations of different species living in the same habitat. At the community level, we can study the interaction among different species in the habitat. Fourth, ecosystem. An ecosystem is a natural unit of the living component, meaning all the organisms in a community, and the non-living components, meaning the physical environment. These components interact to form a self-supporting, stable, and yet dynamic ecosystem. At the ecosystem level, we can study the cycling of materials between organisms and the environment. Fifth, biome. A biome is a complex of communities that occupies a large geographical area. It is characterized by a dominant type of plant. The organisms of a biome are well adapted to the climate conditions of the area. Savanna, desert, tropical rainforest, and aquatic communities are examples of biomes. At the biome level, we can study how changes in world climate affect organisms in a certain biome. Last, biosphere. Biosphere refers to the entire space on Earth's surface where organisms exist. It consists of the land, the water, and the lower parts of the atmosphere. At the biosphere level, we can study the effect of human activities on ecological processes in the whole biosphere. The thickness of the biosphere is at most 15 kilometers. Comparing with the diameter of Earth, 12,000 kilometers, it is similar to the shell of an egg. The ecosystem is the basic unit in the ecological study, as it includes communities of organisms interacting with their physical environment. We will focus on the study of ecology at the ecosystem level. Now, let's talk about the basic features of an ecosystem. Ecosystems have the following three basic features, making them self-supporting, stable, and yet dynamic. First, they are interactions of organisms with one another and with the physical environment. Interactions among organisms are usually related to feeding. Besides feeding, organisms may develop other relationships with one another. For example, some species may compete for common resources. Organisms show different adaptations in order to live in specific environments. On the other hand, organisms also affect their physical environment. For example, they may take up substances and release wastes into the environment. They may also modify their physical environment by speeding up erosion or stabilizing their substratum. In an ecosystem, there is also the flow of energy. Energy flows from one organism to another in the form of food when organisms are eaten by others. Energy is eventually lost as heat from an ecosystem. Energy cannot be cycled. A constant supply of energy from the sun into the ecosystem is therefore essential to maintain the stability of the ecosystem. That being said, materials in the ecosystem can be cycled. Useful elements, for example carbon and nitrogen, inside organisms are not lost from an ecosystem. They are cycled between organisms and their physical environment when organisms carry out photosynthesis, respiration, excretion, egestion, or when they die. Thus, a balanced ecosystem does not require the supply of extra materials. Although Hong Kong is a small place, various types of ecosystems can be found. Here are a few major types of ecosystems in Hong Kong. Freshwater stream. Most freshwater streams in Hong Kong are small with fast-flowing water. Many fish species live in the fast-flowing sections of a stream. Some insects live on the water surface in slow-flowing sections of a stream. The larvae of some insects may be found under the rocks. Amphibians may be found attached to plants along stream banks. Another major type of ecosystem in Hong Kong is the mangrove. Mangroves are intertidal mudflats where freshwater streams run into the sea. The slow flow of water allows fine soil particles to settle and accumulate to form soft mud. The mud has a low oxygen content and a high salt content. Plants living in mangroves have special adaptations for surviving in such an environment. Animals may live on the trunks, leaves, or exposed roots of mangrove trees, on the mud surface or inside the mud. Furthermore, rocky shore is another type of ecosystem in Hong Kong. Rocky shores are marine coastal areas covered with large rocks. They are covered with seawater when the tide comes in during high tide, and when the tide goes out during low tide, the shore becomes exposed to the air and small rock pools may form. Organisms are often found inside these pools. In the parts of the rocky shore exposed to wave action, organisms found often have hard shells and they attach themselves firmly onto the rocks. Another example of major ecosystem in Hong Kong are woodlands. Evergreen broadleaf trees are the major species in natural woodlands in Hong Kong. Many of them were cleared to provide agricultural land and fuelwood in the 19th century. In the mid-20th century, exotic species such as the paperbark tree were planted. To enhance biodiversity in woodlands, more native species have been planted recently. Various kinds of birds and butterflies and some mammals feed on fruits of trees can be found in woodlands. Last but not least, grassland is also a major ecosystem in Hong Kong. Many grasslands in Hong Kong occur either in abandoned farmlands or in areas where regular burning has prevented the growth of shrubs and trees. Grasslands have relatively low biodiversity. Grass and herbs are the major plant species in grasslands. This is the end of the video. Thank you for watching. Please give us a like and subscribe to our channel. Click on the tab to watch the next part of the video series.